They went to the pleasure beach, and then they were convinced that that was the place you went to when you died. Now, I'm mentioning this more as a way of an introduction because you are a director of that wonderful institution, which I'm glad to say is alive and well, yes?
Absolutely, Eric. In finest form, thank you.
Good. Now, you have brought along a few items today from your archive.
The archive goes back 113 years since when Pleasure Beach first started at South Shore in Blackpool. But these are from our ice show of 1938, Dashing Blades. It was the second show in the ice strome. The first was called Marina, but during that run, our managing director then saw the show Checkmate in the West End, at Sadler's Wells, met the designer of the sets and the costumes of Dashing Blades, was so inspired by the work he'd done, he asked him to come to Pleasure Beach and do our costumes, our sets, and indeed our programme for 1938. And these are examples of that design work.
And that designer's name was?
Edward McKnight Kaufman.
Yes,
Kauffer.
Exactly. Edward McKnight Kauffer. It's just interesting because he's a big name. He's a big name in poster design, certainly in that period, because he was designing for Shell.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's have a look at his work, because we'll start off with this design, because we've actually got here the end result. And these girls, you know, the chorus slide, if you will, I'm full of admiration for these girls, because not only could they dance, but they could dance on ice as well.
Yeah.
So that's one that I particularly like. But I do also like this. Well, the fascinating thing, there's all sorts of influences there, and I mean, Picasso is one. And on top of that, you know, there's sort of elements of sort of Russian constructivism, but without making this too much of an art lesson, the overall effect is quite dramatic. But he's happy in that, but he's also doing this sort of thing as well. So he can turn his hands as sort of classical costume. So how many in the archive? That's what I'd like to know.
We have 18 of these, but the archive, of course, is enormous.
Well, I mean, these things, they just do not turn up, you know, on the art scene. They don't turn up at auction, to the best of my knowledge, anyway. So it's a bit of a stab in the dark.
Yes.
When it comes to putting a value on what you've got there. But I wouldn't hesitate to say between £6,000, maybe £7,000. Wow. You know, to be honest with you, the proof of the pudding would only be in the selling, but that is a situation that's never going to occur.
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Very much indeed.
The Blackpool Tower. So what's your actual connection with this amazing object?
I'm lucky enough to be the general manager of the tower. I've been here for 6 years now, and we're custodians of the model and of the building, hopefully for many years to come.
Wonderful. This inscription down here, this was presented to John Bickerstaff. Now, who was he?
John Bickerstaff was the mayor of Blackpool in the 1800s,
Right.
and he went to Paris and saw the Eiffel Tower and said, we want one of those for Blackpool. In actual fact, they built a tower that is 518 feet 9 inches to the top of the tower, but at the bottom, being very clever Victorians, decided to build an entertainment complex
Make a bit of money.
to make a bit of money.
And so 1898 is actually when the tower was opened.
We were opened in 1894, but this was actually presented to Mr. Bickerstaff in 1898.
Right, because that's interesting, because the hallmarks there are for Sheffield, and it's the firm of John Round, a very famous Sheffield firm, and they're actually 1897, so with that year earlier with the inscription. What I think is lovely, though, when we look at the fantastic detail of this, right down to what was actually happening in each section. Billiards, cafe, restaurant. Then we've got the circus, pavilion concerts, dancing, and variety shows. Now, there's what appears to be tarnish over here. What's actually happened at some stage, perhaps 20, 30 years ago, this was all lacquered. And I can perfectly understand. I mean, this is a cleaning nightmare. This is the cleaning job from hell. Right? And clearly, they decided it was a very good idea to have the whole thing. It's basically a nail varnish type lacquer. But after 10, 15 years, it begins to deteriorate, and that's what's happened there. It's getting to the stage where it really needs looking at again. The detail coming up here there is absolutely fantastic. All the mouldings and so on. And I love the fact that we've actually got, with the lifts going up and down, it looks as though those must have worked at some stage.
I believe they did. We wouldn't like to try them now. It wouldn't do it any good.
And then up to this very famous little top. It's interesting as well because with this, we can actually see how it's constructed.